So if you can't tell, we're not in Florida anymore. This is me from the future, but I'm here to tell you the story of how we trained a subscriber how to fly with the help of my friends at Aviator Paramotor. So back in the summertime, we did a giveaway with Risky Biscuits Co. and Aviator Paramotor for a free slot in training down there. When it came time for the drawing, my man Derek won. He was a very deserving candidate. He was super stoked to take on this mission, and we met down there in Lake Wales, Florida. So before we get into the whole training process, I want to give a huge thank you to my friends at Aviator for allowing me the opportunity to do this giveaway. I trained with them over 6 years ago, and they continue to be my #1 recommended place for training. So if you want to sign up for training with them, I'll leave their link down in the description. Make sure you mention my name in that little drop down, and I will send you a free t-shirt so you can be rocking the Risky Biscuits logo at training. So day 1 of training started out early in the morning. Everyone arrived in the classroom and we just did some introductions, got to know everyone. Everyone had a story, but one thing everyone kind of agreed upon was that this experience was going to be life-changing. Getting into paramotoring is not just kind of acquiring a new hobby. It's something that's truly going to change how you look at life. The syllabus was handed out, which includes topics from weather to airspace, FR 103, mechanics of gear, and even the physics of flight. Now, I think quality training has to be at least 50% ground school work and 50% physical skills. I think a lot of people leave out the actual ground school part of training, which is super important to be a responsible and educated paramotor pilot. Now by day 2, they started to get familiar with the motors. The first time you put on a motor, it just feels awkward. You kind of figure out how to get it on your back, how to clip in everything, start that procedure of doing it the same way every single time. They also did a hang test with the motors to figure out where their hang point should be for their weight so that they can establish what to set it to in the field when they're actually ready to fly. Day 2, they started kiting. The way they do kiting is you kind of do a buddy system. You have a kiting partner, and in this case, there was one instructor for every pair. Now, when your instructor is working with one student, the other student is left to kind of watch from the outside perspective, the third-person view, and see what their partner's doing right and see what they're doing wrong and learn from their mistakes. After they get a little time kiting, they swap positions, and everyone's really just learning with each other. By day 3, they were doing the motor simulator. Now this is just like the hang test, but they use some bungees to hold the motor down so that you can rev it up to full power and it stays stationary. And in the simulator, they have actual risers with brake toggles so that you can truly experience what everything's gonna feel like without being in the air. The cool part is the instructor is on the radio talking through your helmet to you, and they basically go through your first flight start to finish so that you have an idea of exactly what's going to happen, how the flow is going to be safely on the ground before you take to the sky.
20 feet, transfer that vision all the way across the taxiway. Get that sight, 6 feet, pressure to your shoulders, pressure to your nipples, all the way down, strike that back foot, run, make that turn. Bring it down all the way. Very good, sir. Let's do that with full power.
In this case, weather was really good down at Lake Wales, so by day 4, they were ready to start towing. So they have this really long winch system. The students set up early in the morning with pretty much 0 wind. They do a forward inflation, and the certified tow operator revs up the tow winch, starts to pull them and add power for them. They get the feeling of what it's like to add that pressure at the right moment and get up in the air. They cruise at about 30 to 50 feet above the ground, and then the tow operator comes off power, and they feel out what that landing's gonna be like. Now they do this without the risk of damaging the motor on their back. They get to do an actual flare and feel what it is like to land. Derek and his partner Jason were crushing it on the tows at this point, so they went ahead and broke off from the group, went with their instructor to actually do their first flights. They got a briefing on what it was gonna be like, how they were gonna set up, and Derek went up and crushed his first flight. All right, so Derek's getting clipped in. He's got his motor running, warming it up, and air is still dead calm. So it's a little bit of a tricky launch for the first flight. Really got to make it count on the inflation, especially now that the wings are kind of wet. But I believe in him. Derek's got the skills, man. He's been dedicated on this whole journey before and after starting training. So I have faith. Tension is high. It's gonna be awesome. Good luck, man. How are the nerves feeling?
I'm nervous.
You'll crush it.
I'm knocking out a plan though. So.
All right, concierge service for the
On
first
it.
shot. You get it. That's clear. It's down.
Perfect. Let's just tight that wing. When you're ready, come. Keep it coming. Good inflation. Hold those A's. Keep coming. Keep coming. Keep coming. Release. Run faster. Add some power. Add some power. Chill. Just not enough. Just a little more cowbell.
My heart's racing. That was a perfectly executed abort. Nothing wrong with that. Here we go for round 2.
Okay, Derek, when you're ready,
A little bit of wind.
Take a deep breath. Keep it coming. Tight that wing. Keep it coming. Hold those A's a little longer. Keep coming. Hold those A's longer. Hold them. Keep coming. Full power. Kill.
Perfect abort. It's tough out here, like I said. Almost no wind, and the wings are nice and wet from the wet grass, so it's a challenging one, but he's doing perfect.
Give me such power. Keep coming. Pick up those A's. Run this way. Hold those A's longer. Hold those A's. Keep those A's in. Power. Run this way. Power. Bring in more power. Keep coming. Full power. Yeah, baby. Ease up on those legs. Very good, man. Very good. All right, let's do a circle, right-hand circle. Keep that motor at idle and just right turn, look, lean, turn right, pressure your shoulders and hold. All right, on the count of 3, full power and hold. Abruptly let up. There you go. And add some brake. Very good. Pitch oscillation. Very nice. Excellent. Make a turning left-hand turn and descent. Touch the left and hold. All right, 80 feet. Get out of the seat. Let up on your hands. Kill the motor. 1 foot forward. 1 foot forward. Gonna wait. Transfer your vision. Wait. Pressure. All the way down, baby. Beautiful. Run it out. Tight that wing.
Took off in like pro boss winds.
I would say a couple times I was having an issue too with this. I didn't realize it was grabbing a hold of the riser, and I was like, what the? Bobble. Yeah, mine is these right here. You usually hit it when I try to look over. Good. What do you think? I just bashed my funny bone. Can't feel my hand.
How'd it feel?
It felt, it was a lot easier than I was expecting, to be honest. You're chilling. It's the takeoff.
Woo! Yeah.
Killed
Thanks,
it, man.
Tucker.
Good work. Yes.
It is so sick. You're just like, oh,
You're next, buddy.
I kind of thought I was going like right at the cars on the takeoff, but I was just like, no.
That's standing on the other side of this one. You can touch something wrong.
Wait, we shouldn't do it small.
It's gonna get bigger.
Do
Too small. Yeah. Not sure I'll be able to read that going out the door.
It's your own fault.
I mean, why we have that big of a square?
So Derek and his partner Jason crushed their first flights on day 4. They got a couple more flights after that. By day 5, all of the students had done their first flights.
Hold it all the way down. Max it.
Nice.
We flow like a bee.
So, I'd like to present these to you guys. Job well done.
At the end of the day, on day 5, they did a little ceremony thing where they hand out the Aviator Challenge coins. Now this is like a military tradition where everyone that has a coin is kind of part of a special group. The idea is if you're out to eat or at a bar, someone pulls their challenge coin, everyone else in the group is challenged to pull theirs out as well. And if they don't have it, they have to buy the drinks. If everyone has it, then the guy who initiated the challenge has to buy. After this little ceremony, everyone's feeling good, and they had the opportunity to sit down and evaluate some flights. And what we found was pretty much all the students were nailing the form. They were 90-95% there, and it was just minor things that the instructors could pick out and say, do this a little bit better next time. So it was a really good opportunity to learn and look at the actual footage of your takeoff, because everything's going so fast in your mind on the first couple launches, you kind of forget what happened, and having the footage is really, really valuable. So after this, Derek was feeling really good. He had a good amount of flights under his belt, and I had the opportunity to go fly around with him.
All right, my friends, we are just capping off our stay at Aviator, and I am getting to do a monumental flight with my man Derek, who's right up there on this orange and red wing. Derek is excelling in this training. He's on a Spider 3 now. He's flying the Moster Maverick. He's absolutely crushing it. Dude, that's epic. I think he's flying the actual shirt that he bought from the website that won him this training. He's pretty speedy on that little Spider. What's up, guy?
So watching students go through training is always a really cool experience. Witnessing their first flight is something special for sure. And every time I go back to Aviator, I'm always impressed that they've added something new or they've improved something. And in this case, you could see that not a single student was falling behind or struggling in any way. They were all kept up to speed by their instructors, and I mean, the proof was in their first flights. Everyone did absolutely amazing. We had to leave training a little bit early to get back on the road, but over the next week, a lot of the students were still around and got a ton more flights. I think Derek left with something like 36 flights. Super confident and with a really good solid foundation, both in the physical skills and the mental knowledge to continue progressing on his own back at home with his own gear. Like I mentioned, if you guys want to sign up with them, check out the link down below. Don't forget to mention my name and I'll send you some sweet swag. Make sure you stay tuned to our adventures. As you can see, we're already out in Arizona. We've got Louisiana coming up next, some adventures in Texas, and then out to Arizona where we are now. So hit the subscribe button if you have not yet. Stick around for the adventure, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Till then, peace. Zoop.